You're early. Usually I'm here for 20 minutes before someone shows up. Sunday's the Lord's Day. You dog people just don't understand you dog people. Rusty has one as well. He usually that's what he uses as an excuse to leave the Satsang. Is he's got to go walk his dog. No, not happening. Eventually, I'm pretty sure that he'll come here for a visit at some point. He's not really that far. Yeah. Ah, people move all the time from one country to another. It happens all the time. Well, this world isn't that big. You just jump on a plane. If you're not tied down, how tied down are you to your present location and situation? Yeah, things change. I don't think Denise is tied down at all. To be honest, not to talk about Danissa when she's not here, but she's probably the kind of person that we're looking for this community here on Paige and I on our land. She's single. She has no family. She's expressing that she's been alone for a long time and that she wants to have people to talk about spirituality with. So this might be perfect fit. She doesn't really like people. We don't really like people. We'll see how it all unfolds. But this is a magical paradise here. This land is a magical paradise. Start our little hippie cult here. Hmm. And people just mind their own business here, right? Like there's the neighbor just down there, a couple hundred meters. It's the only person that I really associate with in this area, and they don't care what we do. Like I could have illegal immigrants here. I'm sure that they could just disappear here. They could just when the shit's really hitting the fan, like when I think next year worldwide there'll be like a depression or something really, really it's going to be bad, and there'll be so many big things going on that people won't care about a few. people living illegally in northern BC in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to care. I don't really care about the law anymore anyway. It's all corrupt. When God is for you, who can be against you? I think that's a Bible quote. Studying to do and be what? Hmm. Well, pretty hard to make a living doing that, but it's if it's your passion. But good luck making a living at being an artist. I guess if you had all your basic needs taken care of already, you could just pursue your art without having to make any money. I, I think Paige and I are going to have a store here in town eventually to sell our water because we've got, anyway, we might someday own a store that could possibly sell art. Who knows, right? Hmm. I think that's what Danissa does too, right? She does advertising stuff on the internet. Yeah. Yeah. She designs logos and stuff. Wow. So you are an artist already then. You should see if you two can meet. I know it's like, "Oh, you're in the same country." Like, I know it's not quite as big as Canada. It's like, "Oh, I'm in Canada too. Let's meet." It's like, well, but I don't know. Romania is probably the size of like half the size of British Columbia or something, so it's probably pretty teeny. Yeah, you should try to organize a meeting between you two. I mean, like-minded people that are interested in what we're interested in, and our focus is mainly spirituality. We're very few and far between, right? So it's good to have this little community of ours, even though it's only an online community so far. Dog people. Yeah, I got nothing to do today. I'm not gonna do any work today, so be sitting here for a long time, I think. Bro, is that you, Danissa? I never would have guessed if you wouldn't have told me. So I watched your last video, Danissa, and I think that you probably have to move here eventually. I have spoken. Yeah, where the guy hugged you. We have bears here too. I saw a bear just the other day run across the back there. So that guy just wanted to hug a pretty lady, I guess. That's what guys do. Um, yeah, people. I don't really enjoy talking to people either. Just casual, day to day, getting the groceries. How's the weather? That sort of thing. Yeah, but yeah, I don't. What most people talk about, I have no interest as well. Zero. I think Jan Can is out walking the dog right now, but I think she'll be back. I think so. I don't know. I can never. I, can, I have a hard time with people's names because they're just labels, right? But my memory sucks. Yeah, Denissa, I think you should honestly, seriously think about coming to visit here sometime. Just check it out. I mean, what you're talking about is the community that I want to build here, right? A community that's centered around spiritual growth, about the heart of everything, the purpose of everything is spiritual, and everything moves from that. So the dozen or so people that we have on this little community will all be like-minded, will all be spiritually orientated. And I think that if there's no egos, that everyone should get along, right? As long as everyone has the same goal in mind, we shouldn't have conflicts, because egos equals conflicts and no egos equals no conflicts. Yes, I think so. It I stumbled across you, I don't know how long ago it was, a year, 2 years ago now. And as soon as I saw your video, I thought, well, this chick has something. So, yeah, I think that you would be a perfect fit for the community that we are trying to develop here, to ride out the end of the world in moksha here. No, we don't hunt here. I don't hunt. The hunters can hunt, and I'll eat the meat they produce, but I'm gonna fish. There's a b Yesterday, I was hanging out by the lake there, and there were fish jumping. It was just and 2 I was just sitting there, and it was so still, like, just mirror still. And I was sitting there, and 2 ducks just swam right by about 20 feet away. I didn't move, they didn't see me. Well, if they did see me, they didn't care. And they're just talking, "Quack, quack, 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 quack." Just and the fish were jumping, and it was just it's magic here. This is magic. So the source of protein that we're gonna have here, I think, is gonna be mostly eggs and fish, but we're gonna grow copious amounts of food here, copious amounts. And the same day that the bear ran across the back there, a moose. The very same day, earlier in the day, a moose, not a full grown moose, but a moose, ran across my front yard. And then later in the day, out the back, a bear ran across the backyard. So, and every single day, there's deer just wandering around. It's said that Ramana Maharshi could speak to the animals. I don't know how much you've read about Ramana Maharshi's life, but he could speak to animals. Yep. Well, if you were here as a community member, we'd be putting you to work. Like, there's lots of gardening to do and stuff. In the winter, things slow down quite a bit here, though. Yeah, there's going to be lots of food to process, to grow and process, and possibly sell. We bought a freeze dryer, and I've already freeze dried copious amounts. I love the word copious today of spinach specifically. So we're going to sell freeze dried food as well as keep the freeze dried food because it lasts for 25 years. So that's how we're going to get a stockpile of food for when the nukes fly. I don't know, Danessa. When I was watching this video this morning, this last one you made, I just kept thinking, well, you should be here. You're longing to be here with this community that Paige and I see. Where I am, where I used to live in Saskatchewan. Apparently, there are targets in the United States that Russia will. The closest way to get to the United States from Russia is over Canada with the missiles, right? So where they would be intercepted would be like over Saskatchewan, where I used to live. So that was Saskatchewan might not be a very good place to live in the apocalypse, but where I am, there won't be any nukes flying over us. So as far as safe places in the world to live, pretty safe here, pretty good. Central British Columbia. Yeah, the Middle East is the Middle East and Asia, my goodness. I just can't see how humanity is going to avoid World War III. It seems inevitable because there's tension and climate change will just keep ratcheting up that tension, right? There's no way that things are going to release and things are going to get calm and nice and cool and collected and peaceful when climate change keeps the food shortages and the natural disasters and stuff, that the tension will just keep ratcheting up and up and up. And that, to me, climate change is that which there used to be cycles, right? There's always cycles, but this is the last cycle. There's no more cycles. So climate change is destroying all these normal cycles. And there's no way out. There's no way out of this now. For the vast majority of humanity is heading straight to hell. Yes, Danessa, you believe everything I believe, and I believe everything you believe, basically. But we both believe that beliefs are nonsense. It's about time, Paige. You were probably out working out in the gym, weren't you? Tesla cars will save us. Yeah, right. Yeah. If we would have started this actual being serious about transitioning to electricity instead of fossil fuels decades ago, maybe, but now it's too late. We're done. Not even Elon Musk can save us. Elon's the Antichrist. I knew she'd call you sweet, Danessa. I have these visions, and it's really weird. It's just a sentence or something will just come to me, and then like an hour, 2 hours later, a day later, that exact thing will happen. It's like having foresight, but you're not in control of where you can look. It's just a vision, something pops into your head and then goes away, and it'll come true later on. But it's not like I am going to try to look into the future now. Like it really doesn't work that doesn't work that way for me anyway. Yes, and I completely agree. Can you imagine the power? Now, I'm not talking about the level of power, Danissa, that you and I are talking about is not we're going to consciously go out and change things. It's the world. How do I put this? If we had a community of like-minded people here that all had spiritual powers, just the ability to remain still, basically, right? Just the ability to just have abide in thought-free awareness and let the universe take us where it wants to go. We had a community out here like that. I literally believe that this would be its own separate world, right? Like quantum mechanics is basically saying that each individual person's world is their own world. Paige and I were talking about this yesterday, that what's going on in China isn't my world. If my world and your world and everyone's world, the way it's supposed to be, the way it was meant to be in the natural unfolding of this, that each individual's experience is their world, but only through the senses. You can't use tools. See, this is what technology has done. It's throwing us way off course. There is a straight and narrow path to get out of this game, and the purpose of life, and we've just gone off of it. So because of technology, when you look into, you're not even looking through. I don't believe you're looking through a telescope. I don't believe you're looking through a particle accelerator. You're looking into it. And none of this was meant to be. Your world is your senses. That's it. So this is my world, the world that I can see. That's that way over there, that mountain range. That's my world. That is the extent of my world, really. And if we had a dozen people here that were focused on this and not on the freaking the news or the or media or whatever, if we were all just like-minded, this is our world. It could literally be a separate world than what's going on. I really believe that, right? Like there could be nuclear holocaust going somewhere else, and the effects of that nuclear holocaust will be very minimal here. But it doesn't have to do with planning and trying really hard and thinking about it and planning all this stuff. It's getting to the base and having a loose intention in your mind, I guess, and just letting it unfold. That's the power. The power is not in the control. The power is in the beingness. So out here, when the chores are done and there's nothing more to do, instead of watching TV or something or playing video games or whatever people do, the people here in this community will sit and meditate or go for a walk or go for a canoe or a bike ride or something. It's like we will stay in the analog world. I'm calling the physical world the analog world. So this is the grand experiment, is to get some people here in a community and see if we can branch off from the hell that's occurring. And Paige is one of these people that people open up to as well. So Paige has this ability to just be, and people just, well, she's a massage therapist with magic mojo. She's an empath for sure, except she's not emotionally engaged. She's, anyway, I don't want to talk about Paige before Paige. Technicalities. You still got the mojo, whether you've got a license for it or not. You have the mojo. Yeah, in my, I could save you a lot of time and effort, perhaps, because I did the spiritual search for about 13 years before I came across Ramana Maharshi, and then the seeking stopped. So I would suggest just sticking with Ramana Maharshi and just not going out to other teachers at all. No, none of these new non-dual teachers. Just just Bhagavan, just Ramana Maharshi. He's my Sat Guru. He, to me, has been the highest evolved, most enlightened being that's ever lived, in my opinion. That's ever lived. as simple and maybe strange as it sounds, looking at pictures and videos of Ramana has really helped me as well, because I know what he was looking at now. Like when you see pictures of him and video, you can tell he's not focused on anything in this world. He's focused on it, on the self, right? His main focus is on the absolute self, and the world is in the periphery. It's just in the periphery. But if you put it to the like when you focus on something, everything else by necessity becomes blurry and less focused on. So when you focus on the self, which is the reality, which is the stillness or the mona or whatever you want to call it, then the world becomes blurry in the background, right? And vice versa. If you put all of your focus on exterior, which is thoughts and sensations, then you the self, the spirit will become blurry, and you won't be able to recognize it anymore. It'll be unrecognizable, and that's what happened with humanity, and especially science. Science is so outwardly focused, so all 100% outwardly focused, and that makes it impossible to see spirit. And that's what makes the vision that scientists have completely inverted. It's absolutely perfectly inverted. It's exactly wrong. Science is exactly wrong. Perfectly wrong. Yeah, the fact that it's perfectly wrong makes it look right. It's 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 functioning in the same way. It's just everything's inverted. It's that's what makes it so tricky. Like if it was completely wrong and didn't work at all, then you could just it wouldn't make any sense. But science makes sense. So that's what gets us so confused is that it works, but it's exactly the opposite of what's supposed to be working. We have to stay in this analog realm. If we're going to focus on something in this world, let it not be the screen and let it not be thoughts. Let it be the analog physical world of the sensations, of the senses. Yeah, that's exactly. It is the mechanism through which we are devolving. Hmm. It's exactly there's a fork in the path coming up, and it's exactly the wrong path. The path that leads to being more lost. Yeah. But we're in such humanity's in such delusion that we think it's the right path, right? Like it's like when you're a child, you could be growing up in a like a dysfunctional family or like a cult or something, and you don't know. That's what you grew up in. You when you're immersed in something and that's your life, you just take it to be the way it is. This is the way life is. And humanity's done that. It's just, well, this is just the way it is. It's like, no, this is not normal. This is not natural. And then we go to school and just all brainwashed into believing that science is truth. But science is truth about the illusion, but it's revealing that it's all an illusion. But scientists don't like that result. So they keep going and going and going, trying to disprove what their very system of thought is proving to them. That when they look at particles, when they look at things as closely as possible, at the end of that, there's no things. They're right. And yet this is what they've discovered, and yet they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say particle physicists aren't ready to just go, oh, well, the world isn't made of things. So let's start somewhere else. They're they're materialists. They believe that they're the body. So then they're going to try to they're going to try to make their theories work by trying to convince humanity that the multiverse is real, that the multiverse is actually occurring. Right? So then the brainwashing starts, and then they make movies about it and have it on video games and stuff. This whole multiverse thing is being pushed on us, but it's physicists' response to physics. Okay, there's a dispute. Are you a female or a male? Or do you associate or identify as neither? Oh, everyone's here. Right on. Well, not everyone. We need Rusty. Oh, you're male. Okay. I was wrong. I thought you were female, but I forget these things. SS. Do you think there's any way to prove mathematically to let's say that each multiverse is a different person? Like the multiverse is basically just other people. Do you think there's any math that could work that out? So the choices that are made in the death state. So there's only one choice to be made, and that is the choice as to what life, like a DVD or a video game on a disc, you get to choose that disc. But after that, it basically plays out, and there's no real free will after that. But the choice that splits reality into two is the choice that's made in the death state to engage in another human life, right? So that's the multiverse. But you have to limit the choices, right? Each each time a choice is made, a possible choice is made. So every life that doesn't happen wasn't isn't possible to happen, right? Is this making any sense? Your life is a possible extension or experience of my life, of me, right? It's all the same being having different experiences simultaneously. Yes. Oh my god. Yes. Like solution seeker, you might be the smart person that I need to translate what the fuck I'm thinking and what I'm seeing into academia, speech, and mathematics. Yeah, there's no free will. Like in a video game, it progresses, right? Like you can't just stop. Well, I guess in some of them you kind of can stop. But then the program itself takes over. Like even with Sims, if you just stopped, the sim would just continue on automatically and probably live its life somehow. Just a mundane average life. So yeah, there's no free will. I might be able to look over here. I might be able to in this frame of this movie, I may be able to shift my attention, but I can't shift the frame I'm in. Yeah. So there you have to limit the amount of free will, right? The amount of choices comes down to one choice per life, basically. And that choice occurs in the death state. And then what appears out of that, because it's retro causal, right? There's something about the thoughts that can go back in time, right? The mind aspect of an individual is that which can travel through time like the body can travel through space, right? So there's something about at the death experience, somehow you go back. I don't know how far you go back, but you start again. Yeah, it's yeah. And you're in academia, so your teacher is paid to actually listen to you, right? So your teachers need to grade the papers that you hand to them, right? They're legally obligated to. Whereas me, no one gives a fuck, right? They're not legally obligated to listen to anything that I have to say. SS, maybe you're Neo. You're the Neo that's going to break this to the world. But that's the choice. It's not like I have X or Y, right? It's either I do this or do that. It's more of a flow. I have free will to look at things and feel things and right to experience, but I don't have free will. Like I am going to look at the lake now, right? Like thought and choices is exactly not freedom, right? A choice is a limitation on the infinite amount of things that could be done at any moment. A choice narrows it down to two. And one of those is illusory because you're going to do the thing you're going to do anyway. So actual freedom is to be free of choice, right? Choice is a burden. So this is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about getting in the flow with the universe where there are no choices, no forks in the road in a life that's enlightened. It's just there's no choices anymore, right? Because there's no thoughts projecting the illusion of choice. See, this is the community that should be here together. Can you imagine if we had this community here together? Like physically, I could go, "Hey, Denissa, how are you doing?" Fuck, that would be cool. Yeah, but in acting, but there's a self in that, right? There's an individually existing separate self that is acting as opposed to being acted upon. But so that's well, this Spinoza guy, I hear a lot of people talk about him, but he certainly wasn't enlightened, right? Because if you're always no, I would choose being acted upon. The body is just going through the motions along with the rest of the world. So if you think that you're acting, then you obviously have to be a separately existing object, right? You have to be a separately existing entity that's making choices. So that is Spinoza is exactly describing the state of being trapped. He's being trapped by the burden of choice. So if having more choice is more burden, you're being more limited. Do people don't understand this? They think that more choice equals more freedom. But each apparent choice that arises, let's say that there's a fork in the road or whatever, every apparent choice that arises is limiting the infinite possibility of every single moment. So the Spinoza guy is just putting himself in jail. The body is automatically just doing its thing. It doesn't matter what the voice in the head is saying. I mean, I hear these people on X talk about these great philosophers, and it's like, well, he's an idiot. Like he's completely this. Like I don't understand. Like it's because philosophers are taught what to think in school. They're taught philosophy. They're taught how to think like these other dudes. We have to choose what is a necessity. Well, everything goes awry if you start with the assumption that the self is a separately existing individual, right? If you 99% of the philosophers probably start from that perspective that the self is actually this mind body complex of a separately existing entity that has free will that's doing its thing in isolation from the universe. It's ridiculous, right? So if you start from that perspective, then every conclusion that you come to will be wrong. Doesn't matter how smart it sounds. If you think that you're a separately existing entity, then everything that you describe in your world will be wrong. And that's this, right? So they have to go back further. We have to start at the initial assumption, right? It's just like mathematics. We can't just assume that 1 + 1 = 2 is truth. We have to keep going back deeper to find the source of the falsities. But if you keep going back further, you're getting into the roots of the ego, right? The deeper you go, you're getting to the roots of the ego. And the ego doesn't mind being cut off, right? It's all fine. Okay, yeah, you just cut me off, death maybe. But the roots are still there, right? So that's what keeps this going. But what we're doing and what non-conceptuality is doing is we're getting to the roots of the ego and we're pulling it out. And that's where 99% of the people don't want to go, right? It's too far, it's too deep, it's too much. Yeah, it's rooting out that I thought. And every human has said at some point, well, I'm going to do X. And then it was your will to do X. You said, I will do X. And then if you don't do X, then where is your will in that system? Where is the free will? If you say you're going to do something and you end up not doing it, then that was wrong. And then if you say that you're not going to do something, which should be the easiest thing in the world to do is to not do something. And if you say you're not going to do something and you end up doing it, let's say that's Y, I'm not going to do Y, and you end up doing Y, then where's free will? Like people who are discussing free will, I never hear them talk about that. Like, look at your own experience. Why don't you investigate your own experience and make a judgment on that instead of just what you've learned in school? So obviously, if you say you're going to do things and don't do them, and you say you're not going to do things and do them, then your will means nothing, right? Don't kill the messenger. Just look at your life and tell me where the free will is if you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, and then you say you're not going to do something and you do it. There's no free will there. It's obvious. That's right. Nothing can happen in isolation. This is the most obvious thing to me. Like the world, I did a little bit of salvia a couple of days ago, just a half dose. And I rode the wave. I was right on the edge of the world, my identity, and the life, the world of Roy Dobson, whatever that is. I was right on the edge and watching it emerge from the void. So it's the senses. As an astronomer, it would be very difficult to not believe that the world began 13.8 years ago. But that's not how it's happening. It is emerging constantly from the void, immediately, one step. There's one step. It for somehow it all emerges from the void simultaneously, now. It didn't just start and then just like an explosion, and now the explosion is just going out. It's not that way. It's more like inserting a DVD, right? Like when it started playing, that's the universe. And in a way, the universe is all there on that disc, but it's the process unfolds it as it's playing, right? It unfolds, it arises and appears immediately through the playing of the DVD. So I think that's what's happening. Yeah, but astronomers don't think that it's an illusion. That's the problem, right? Yeah, so and that's what quantum mechanics is saying, I think, is that the entire world arises and passes simultaneously. And in some way, this is the higher level of order than looking at things from a causal, linear way. And again, that has to do with how you focus the aperture of your focus. If you narrow your focus onto a linear expression, it looks like there's causal effects that are linear, right? Like I punch someone in the face and they fall down. But that's just language picking out one certain something out of the field of senses, the field of sensations. So language is intimately connected with this. If there wasn't language, there wouldn't be the appearance of all these separately existing people and experiences. You know too much about philosophy. That guy has more of my view. None of these philosophers, they all, right, it's the elephant again. But they're all describing the elephant, but they don't know that they're talking about the self. It's easy to describe the illusion. That's what philosophers have been doing for eons now, is just describing the illusion and science. But if you don't recognize it as an illusion, like that's the whole point, is to recognize it as an illusion. Yeah, but the reality is the source. The source is the reality, which is the nothing, and the appearances come from the nothing, and well, but it's potential, not nothing. And in a way, the illusion is the description, right? There is no the description is the illusion. The description projects the appearance of separately existing objects and people and experiences. Yeah. So this is why I keep saying that language is the crux of the matter here, right? Symbol and language is it's the transition period. It's this transitionary stage that takes consciousness into the next iteration of samsara is symbol and language. It's exactly what's projecting the next illusory reality. Yeah, and this one too, right? Yeah, like I've said, your world is your field of senses. Just the senses without using any tools, any technology, just the senses. That's your world. My world is as far as I can see. That's it. That's my entire world. And I can see this world, I can experience this world as a field of senses, a field of sensations. And when words are put to that field, then separately existing objects and experiences appear out of the language that's superimposed over top of this field of experience of senses. So it's just so ingrained in us that they're actually that the words the words mean something. We're always taking the map for the territory. We're always taking the symbol to be the reality. The intersection between being and thinking. And sensing. The world comes into being through a bias of attention, through how you focus your awareness. That is how the world will appear to you. So if you're transcendent of thoughts, the world will appear to you as a single, unified, synchronistic singularity, just a field of sensations, a singular field of sensations. And if there's thoughts, then that singular field of sensations will fragment into objects and experiences, separate experiences, rather than just one whole experience. We can direct attention through language. That's the whole point. This is what I'm saying, is that language and symbol itself is a mechanism that controls the aperture of your focus, right? But without that, without language, see, language forces that upon you, right? It it it's very invasive. Language forces this appearance of separately existing objects. But without that language, are you not more free? Is that not your free will to put your attention where you want it to go, rather than saying there's a car, right? And then having your focus, the appearance of a car pops out of this field of senses, right? So language inhibits our freedom because it forces you to see things as separately existing objects. And then philosophers and scientists, they try to use the symbols to dispel the illusion that the symbols are creating, right? They try to use language to fix the problem, to fix the illusion that the language is presenting, right? So they don't recognize that they have to just transcend language completely and symbol completely to get to reality. They keep trying to use that which projects the illusion to see past the illusion. Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah. Philosophers are the worst for taking the map as the territory, for sure. The symbol is not the thing. Well, I see it a little different because the feminine to me is the negative and the positive is the male and the void is the zero. So it has to be triune, it has to be a trinity, it has to be a triune system. Because right, in the end or the beginning or before the beginning and after the end, there is no female and male, right? There's only singularity. So in that state of complete being and unbiased attention, there's no female or male, right? So, well, I know my theory even explains why there's this transgender thing happening. It's because the biggest cycle is the entire physical world can be looked at as the positive, right? It's a bias. The physical sensations is a bias towards the male or the positive. And now that iteration, the physical world, is literally ending, and we're moving more into a non-physical, the negative, the female. So the reason why positive and negative are becoming, or negative is moving to positive and positive is moving to negative, is because we've crossed this event horizon basically. And and everything's like, once you cross the event horizon, time and space are become mixed together and you can't tell one from the other. There's no distinction between time and space. And now we've crossed that, a certain type of event horizon, and female and male, positive and negative, they're mixing, right? As we get closer to the singularity, the distinctions between these things in one way become less, and the fight to have them distinct becomes more, right? So as the duality, the apparent duality becomes more singularity and unified, the resistance against that happening for the with the ego will increase as well. So that's why, like, and in the digital world, there's no biological reproduction at all. So that's why this younger generation who spend most of their time in front, the males especially, that spend most of their time in front of a screen rather than the real world, they don't even care about sex anymore. They're jerking off to porn and right. So that there's no need for sexuality in the digital realm at all. It'll be really weird, whatever it is, but there will be no intercourse in the digital world and no biological reproduction at all. So that's why humans have stopped reproducing. Basically, there's no one's kids don't really even want to have sex anymore because they're too engaged in the physical world. And I mean, in the digital world. So everything that we know in the for as biology is changing. There's no need for sex in a digital world. I've renamed willpower into is power. Yeah, the next the evolutionary step, not the de-evolutionary step, is to remain in the physical realm, keep your attention on the analog world of the senses, and the next when the extinction event comes, I believe that you will have that awareness to have choice in the extinction state. Because I feel that if you don't have self-awareness in the death state or in the extinction state, that your ability to choose will be very limited. You might literally only have two choices to make. But if you're fully enlightened, like if you're more enlightened and you're more aware of self as the body, then I believe that you will perhaps move on to become planetary consciousness. I actually don't know what's beyond human consciousness, right? The human level of self-awareness. There's a higher state, and I believe that's called planetary consciousness, what we would call Gaia. But the vast majority of humanity is going into the digital realm, which is a devolving. But no one wants to admit it. It's really weird when I did that salvia a couple of days ago. There's nothing behind us. It's so weird. It's like the entire world is projected by the senses coming through the body. It's more of a reverse. We're not detecting the world, we're projecting the world. The world is projected outward from the body. The senses is projecting the world is the senses, right? Like if people would just concentrate on one of these fucking sentences and not just go, oh, that's interesting, let's go on to the next sentence. The world is the senses, period. Now, if someone were to understand that, they would understand everything. That explains everything. There's no separation. There isn't a world out there that's separate, that's being detected by the body. That's an inverted view. What's really happening is that the entire world arises simultaneously with the body, through the body. So the senses, the world is the senses. There's no separation between anything. There's no particle and force acting upon the particle. Every scientist on the planet should take salvia. A high dose of salvia. That'll fix their materialism. Yeah, like, does a blind person see black? It's a lack of sight. A lack of sight isn't seeing black, is it? It's- right? A lack of sight is not having sight. There isn't even a word black, is there? Like, wouldn't it require far less computing power if everything just if it wasn't always being projected, always there, but it just came into awareness, it just manifested like a hologram when you look at it, right? Wouldn't it take far less computing power to have a system that just emerges when you interact with it rather than having it there all the time, just waiting for someone to interact with it? Mhm. And when we look through the body, the physical world appears of the senses. And when we look through a tool, when we look through technology, when we look into technology, when we look through technology, it there's nothing there. It's not looking at something. We're not, it's a telescope isn't looking at something. I'm sorry, it just isn't. A telescope is projecting an appearance in the simplest, most economic way possible to fulfill a narrative. Hmm. And I think that we kind of hacked the system because the Earth, let's say it's the Earth video game, right? You're not supposed to be able to leave the video game. You're not allowed to leave. See, I think that's what Elon's trying to do, and all these guys that are going into space. I think that they're trying to. Yeah, well, that's what they're doing, right? The goal of this game is to escape the game, but there's no way to escape. You can't. You can't just fly off the screen, right? A Sims character can't jump out of the screen and just jump into your body and say, "Oh, this is who I am." Right? It's ridiculous. So I think that This is another reason. What is that law? You'll know SS, the law that says why there aren't any aliens around. I think it's hardwired. I think it's like, well, once you reach this stage, this level, if you're building technology, if that consciousness is building technology that allows them to leave the planet, then they're really deluded, right? They it's like there was a thought virus within consciousness that got seeded on this planet. So this is all narrative again, right? But and this virus, this thought virus, entered the physical realm through humanity on this planet Earth. And there's like we're the bad guys here, right? We have to accept that humanity is a cancer. Let's just accept that humanity is a virus that's gone awry on this planet. So the natural defenses are fighting against that, right? So there's like it could be seen at on a small scale, like on a cellular level. This is what's happening only on a macro level. Is that there's a natural defense system going on that's prohibiting humanity, the virus that spread onto the earth that's destroying all the life on the planet. There's something that doesn't want that to escape onto other planets, right? There's we cannot be allowed out. the This thought virus needs to die on this planet because if it spreads, it's like the fucking Borg. Resistance is futile. It'll consume everything, right? If it gets out. So I hope Elon fails. I don't think there's any way to hack this. You can't. You can't. A character in a video game can't ever escape the video game. That's what it is. So the character has to realize that it's not the character, that it's actually the person playing. Yeah, the 13th floor. Yeah. And that's how I feel like when I take salvia, right? Is that you get to see behind, you get to see the information wave that's behind the screen that's operating the whole system. You get to see the nothing, I guess, the non thing. It's like there was a Star Trek episode where the was it Data was in the holodeck and he was playing the Sherlock Holmes simulation, and Moriarty, who is a character, a program within the program, programmed the holodeck, the simulation, to make it seem like when Data left the simulation, right? Like Data thought that he was leaving the room, but within the simulation, that was occurring, right? It was all an illusion. It was all, he never left the room. That was all part of the illusion. And Moriarty had him trapped in the, right? It's exactly that. It's, I think that's exactly what you're talking about when you said that funny stuff. A certain character hacks a certain level of the game. I think that's kind of what's happened to a lot of these non-dual people, the non-dualists, the neo-Advaita crowd. They've been programmed to believe that they're awakened, but they're not. So they're very content to say that they're enlightened, but it's just Moriarty fooling them again. They're still trapped within the simulation, but they think that they're free. Like Satan is Moriarty, the epitome of Moriarty, right? Like Satan is the most brilliant adversary possible. So it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to imagine that maybe Moriarty's fooling us right now, right? Maybe Satan is just beating us at the game right now. We love it, then we hate it, then we love it, then we hate it. We love to hate it. Yeah.
Hi, Callie. All of the kitties? No?
She doesn't want up right now. She just wants her own. So if mind is all potentials existing at once, then that could be the wave function, and that could also be expressed, I believe. I believe that maybe that's what the multiverse is expressing, right? I've been obsessed with this multiverse thing right now. Because there has to be a way. I mean, if you're no longer describing, if you need to resort to other worlds to describe your theory is no longer describing the world that you're trying to describe, right? You're in a fantasy world now, right? Infinity. Infinity is samsara. So there's the infinity of potential and there's the infinity of manifestation. So the infinity of manifestation is actually a limitation on pure potential. So along with infinity, so infinity, here's it is. Infinity is trying to express the timelessness of the pure potential in the framework of time, right? So you're trying to explain the source, which is the potential, in terms of time, which is timeless. It's timelessness. So you're trying to explain that using time within the framework of time. That's infinity. Right. So if you're resorting to infinity to describe whatever you're trying to describe, your theory's wrong. Yeah, so multiverse is obviously basically saying the same thing as the number system in a different way, but they have to assume I believe that the way this all gets resolved, SS, is that we begin with and this might be the route to take, right? This might be even the mathematical route to take, is that there is a singular being, right? There is a singularity, singular awareness, and there's some sort of retrocausal thing with thoughts going back, some sort of, now I start getting wonky, Groundhog Day thing, Groundhog Life thing going on. But there's a forgetting, right? So Groundhog Life rather than day, and where there's a remembering from day to day, right? Groundhog Day, he remembered, but Groundhog Life, you forget. So you don't remember that you start back at the beginning of that life, that day, but it's a different person, right? It's not the exact same experience. It's someone else's life in parallel. So your life is one of the potentials, one of the possibilities of all of the potentials that I could experience. And I'm One of the potentials that you could have experienced or are experiencing right now, but have forgotten. Ugh. Yeah, so here's another thing about infinity, right? So there's infinities that have limitations. Think about a sphere, the planet. It's infinite, right? But there's necessity that goes along with that infinity is a sense of redundancy. So after a point of experiencing the sphere of the earth, you will eventually come back to your starting point. And if you remember that starting point, you'll go, everything was different. And now I'm back where I started. So, and you can keep doing that. So the horizon is infinite, but there's a sense of redundancy about it. Whereas the infinity of the pure potential of the source, there's no limit to that. Deja vu, exactly. And maybe deja vu is just you popping into my life, like the awareness, being aware of when it was you. Uh, mhm. Yes, of course. There's like in a movie theater, there's appears to be one reality that many consciousnesses are experiencing simultaneously, but that's an inversion of what's really happening. There's actually one consciousness and many worlds being projected. Soulmate, that's a strong word. Strong words. Yes, there's only one spirit. There's only one soul. Well, it's too bad you showed up late because it's all been figured out before you got here, but you can replay it when I post it when we're done. Because it's all been answered before you got here. So sorry, you're late. I got a kick-ass stereo system here. We'll have a party here someday. Pool table. I got a foosball table downstairs too. I've played once. And a dartboard. I have a dartboard too. Actually, I have two pool tables. I literally have two pool tables. This place was made to party, and I'm all alone. Bernardo. It's taken me a long time, but I realize that they're too far gone. Like it's moved to having sympathy rather than animosity towards them. It's more like sympathy because they really are lost. Like they, despite their words and even sometimes their arrogance, they're very lost. Like, and that's the irony of it, right? Like that's what kind of pisses me off sometimes is that they're arrogant about it, and from my perspective, they are the ones that are completely lost. Like it's the irony of it is that we're asking scientists to talk about reality, and the scientists are the most deluded of all. You when you come here, maybe you can run the freeze dryer. We'll have chickens, so you can maybe be the chicken lady, or you could be the freeze dry lady. There's lots of things for Danissa to do here, including just sitting around looking at the lake. But Danissa, this is like this is the community you're talking about. Not being able to talk to normal people, average people about what's really important, what you really want to talk about. That'll be commonplace here. It'll be the opposite. We won't be talking about gossip. There won't be gossip, but we won't be talking about what average people talk about. Well, maybe we will. Like there's still room for what are you going to do today, and oh, the weather's nice and stuff like that. But the main focus will be spiritual. This will be an oasis for spiritual growth. Everyone will be aligned. Even the no, I think it's a squirrel that keeps shitting on my tractor, and actually I would like to kill it. Sorry. But I would like to kill that squirrel. Or it could stop shitting on my tractor, one of the two. I can't I can't express the feeling of living here and the life everywhere there's life. There's just not concrete and steel, but life and organisms and nature. No, the word squirrel just was a trigger for me. That's all. All I think of when I hear the word squirrel is that squirrel shitting on my tractor. You two have similar skill sets, I hear. You do digital stuff, right? Denissa, you make logos and such, right? Oh yeah, solution seeker. So there's this new theory that could explain dark energy, and that's that there's a mirror world. Like there's a negative world to this positive. It's just like it's all still metaphor. Like it's all just the triune system. All of it's metaphor. Even the physical world they don't understand is metaphor. So if you understand the triune model, you get everything. Like the parallel world could very well just be the thought world. Like the world, the parallel world that they're talking about isn't literally another physical world. It's probably the thought world that we are superimposing over top of the physical world into which we are moving to accept that it's the new reality. So, this parallel world is probably the very world that is emerging out of our consciousness and the actions of humanity developing this technology. Yeah, I watched Kurt's theory. What do you think? He was being a bit tongue in cheek, a little bit snarky there, wasn't he? He was trying to be a little bit. Yeah, that was. I lost a lot of respect for Kurt after that one. It's like, didn't you hear half of that stuff that, like, it's from my perspective, but half of that stuff was my stuff. Like, literally half of what he was saying is almost verbatim of the shit that I've showed him. Right? So he was being all tongue in cheek and cute about it. But yet, I think mocking these theories. I believe he was mocking them in a way. No, This is what I mean, right? Intelligence has zero to do with wisdom and recognizing truth. It's academia type of intelligence is actually a roadblock to finding truth and reality. So he can't abide in the thought-free state for more than a few seconds. He just can't stop thinking. He won't stop. He can't stop. So therefore, he mocks that state, right? It doesn't. It's not real. It's just a fabrication, and I'm going to make fun of it, right? So first you ignore it. What is it? First you ignore it, then you make fun of it, and then you fight it. I think that's how it goes, right? So maybe Kurtz finally got past the ignoring stage, and maybe now he's making fun of it. But I'm telling you, when I watch that video, I'm like, he's making fun of me. He's mocking my theory. Half of it's me, and half of it's all the other woo-woo theories that he's making fun of. Uh, it's irrelevant to me. What do I care? I'm in moksha. What do I care? I don't care anymore. I don't care. If someone doesn't want to see what you're showing them, they won't see it. It doesn't matter. If someone doesn't want to see what you're showing them, they won't see it. It doesn't matter how obvious it is. Yeah, I'm glad you feel the same way because when I watched that video, I was like, this he has some of my stuff has to be getting into him because holy shit, like anyway, I think it's wearing him down. I think it's like a splinter in his mind. He can't get out of he can't pluck it out. It's stuck there now. Yeah, someone can it's Kurt Jamungal. And I think it's I came up with my own theory or something like that. Yeah, I can't even watch these videos anymore. I can't. It's too frustrating. I just I want to throw the fucking computer through the window or something because I just start screaming. Yeah, like I just start screaming at the screen, right? It's like you guys are just orbiting my theory. You're just orbiting it. You just don't know. You're and no one will, these guys won't listen to me, right? Because I don't have a PhD. But the Wolfram guy, he seems to me to be like one of these really delusional dudes again. Like, in order for there to be computation, there has to be something there that's doing the computing. Like, it, it doesn't matter if you say that whatever label you put on fundamental reality, whether it's computation or information or even consciousness now, that's not it. It's the nothing. You can't describe it. You have to eventually realize that my triune system is as close as you can possibly get. It's as close as you can possibly get. If you try to get closer, you're getting farther away, right? If you try to get closer than my triune fundamental model of reality, you're literally getting farther away. Like that is the only way to prevent infinite reductionism, is to come to a conclusion that the triune system does. That's the only way to avoid infinite regression. Yeah, when you watch it, Danessa, you see if you can see any similarities between non-conceptuality and the nonsense that he's blurting. Because I was shocked. I think that was one of those times where I started screaming at the screen again. Threw a few F bombs in there too, I'm sure. And you can tell it's all about views now. Because a couple of years ago, I was actually emailing Kurt back and forth privately, and he wants to have kids and he wants to have a new apartment in Toronto. Do you know how much a new condo or a condo in Toronto costs? Like, he's just recycling the same guests over and over and over, the ones that probably get the most views. So if you just keep recycling the same garbage over and over and over, well, you're just going to get the same results, which is zip, just a dog chasing its tail. And then then I even show them how they're chasing their tail, and they just shut up. I like chasing my tail, they say. I'm so dizzy, but it's so much fun. They're very dizzy. Well, they take themselves a little more seriously than that. But yeah. Well, they don't recognize it's all for entertainment. They're not really trying to reach any conclusion, even though they speak as though they're trying to reach a conclusion, but they don't want to. They just want to keep blabbing. Having conversations where they're interested. Because when you're interested in something, you know you exist relative to that thing that you're interested in. So that's it. Like his videos are providing people with a relative form of existence to show them that they exist because they're interested in something external to themselves. So they know they exist relative to that external thing that they're focused on. And I tell this to Kurt, I show this to them obviously, but this is what I mean is that a person in delusion, they can't see the reality, even when you point it to them directly. It's like, this is why you're watching this video. You don't even know why you're watching this video. 1,300 likes. 1,300 likes for that nonsense. Well, he lives in Toronto. What will he do? Yeah, what will he do? What will everyone in Toronto do when society collapses and they'll go, "Oh, I didn't see that coming. Well, now what am I going to do?" It's like, wow, you are so smart. You know everything. You didn't even see the train that was coming on the track that you're standing on. You didn't see it coming. You didn't even get off the track. That's how smart you are. It's a shame that when I'm proven right is when society collapses and we go through hell. Unfortunately, that's what's going to prove me to be right. I don't want it to be this way, but it's going to be this way. I know. I mean, it sounds like it's just so far out of our experience, although humans have eaten humans before when they get really hungry. But it's so far out of our experience, we just think that it can't happen. It just sounds like a crazy person talking about people eating each other in the cities. But that is what will happen. And it's because of the deep state of delusion that humanity is in that they can't even recognize what's going to happen. Because their focus is on the freaking screen. That's why. They don't know what's happening. Yeah, but mad cow disease, right? A species it's probably hardwired in the design of this game that a species shouldn't eat itself. That seems to be another one of these inbreeding, self-enforcing feedback loops, positive feedback loops that leads to yeah, yeah. Well, I think at the end, a Ponzi ends up imploding, right? Like a Ponzi, everyone involved in a Ponzi probably in the end just tries to fuck each other over trying to get out of it, I think, right? Like in the end, the Ponzi scavenges on itself because there's nothing left. It's the whole Ponzi operates on itself. So in the end, so if it lives on itself, which a Ponzi does, then in the end it'll eat itself to try to stay alive, right? So that makes sense. If all of humanity is basically a Ponzi scheme, then it will end up eating itself, and humans will end up eating other humans. And that's when that's the hell that's been depicted through the centuries. We've done this before. We're going to do it again. Well, not us. Us, as in humanity, is going to go through hell again. Groundhog species. But we won't be eating people out here because we have freeze-dried food that'll last for 25 years. Might be a bit redundant, but it's better than eating people, I think. It's like, oh, we're having this again? Yes, but it's better than human, right? SS, are you even mentioning anything about thought-free state in your theory? Like, because the multiverse is attached closely with choice, right? Without choice, without the appearance of choice, there would be no multiverse. And choice obviously is presented through the voice in the head. So if you were to use and a person, I read an academic paper where she was using Ramana Maharshi as the source. So if you could use like an actual person, right, like well documented life of Ramana Maharshi, who said that he didn't have any thoughts, so he would not have choice, right? So if you could use can you use Ramana Maharshi and the thought-free state as an actual precedent for the anti-multiverse? Because you'd almost need to have a precedent, an example of someone that lived a thought-free life, if that's what's being presented as being the truth. And of course, he said that there's no free will, right? Ramana said that quote that he said to his mother after 7 years of silence. I think I lost everyone. I would imagine it would register something different than your average person. Like if I'm sitting here without any thoughts occurring, then it would probably register something different than your average person who's sitting there having a thought every 5 seconds. Yeah, abnormal activity like just sitting in a chair, not looking at anything or doing anything. That is definitely abnormal for a human. How often do you see a human in public not doing anything, just sitting there, just looking, not looking at anything in particular, not reading, not looking at a screen, just sitting there happy? That's abnormal for a human. The normal state for a human is complete distraction. Yeah, I asked you like the most important question ever and you were gone. So now it's gone, lost forever. And it's all your fault. Oh, I was asking if you could use Ramana Maharshi as a source because with the multiverse thing, it's all connected intrinsically with choice, right? So, and choice is a thought in the head, right? Choice presents itself as the voice in your head. So, to set a precedent to say that this can actually happen within human consciousness, you could use Ramana Maharshi. I read a paper, an academic paper, where someone was using Ramana Maharshi as their source for the paper. So, and Ramana said that there's no free will, right? That what he said after the 7 years of silence after his enlightenment experience, when he talked to his mother, he said that there's no free will, right? So, I think that if you could incorporate the well documented life of Ramana Maharshi, you could use that as evidence for your thesis. Just saying that it has to be relatable to an actual physical human experience to have it of any value, right? Yeah, so Ramana, that's reincarnation too, right? So Ramana, his world line, and you know what world line is, I'm sure, if you haven't gone again, Solution Seeker. His world line ended, right? So there would be no more universes sprouting off of that branch. I think it's a great idea because, like I said, he died in 1950, so it's well documented, his life and his teaching. A case study, exactly. Like he actually happened. It's not just myth. It's well documented his life. So he would not have any choices. he would go through life content to just live in the same spot for 56 years. Yeah. Yeah, he really ties it all up, right? His life, I think, needs to be included because it makes it real, makes it tangible and practical and valuable. If there was really free will, you would have the choice to not have experience too, right? The full encompassing free will would be the choice to have experience or not. That's the fundamental choice, I would imagine, is that to remain as the absolute and not have this experience anymore, or to still engage in it. That's the fundamental choice. And Ramana just chose not to engage in it anymore. And since there was no individual self, Ramana Maharshi, anymore, that's why there were no choices to be made, because he realized the ego that was Ramana Maharshi, that was the appearance of an independently existing person, was no longer there. Right? There was no person to be, for choices to come to arise within. If there's no individuals independently existing self, then choice does not arise. And ironically, that is actual freedom. To be free from choice, be free from the burden of choice, is true freedom. So Ramana was free of the burden of choice because there was no Ramana. Okay, shut up now. Did I? Right on. Well, maybe you can get, since you're in academia, maybe you can crack it. Maybe you can introduce this to someone who will fucking listen because they're paid to. Yeah, this is the most important thing, right? You realize I'll go on. Yeah, right. I'm sure you realize the importance of the work that you're doing, right? Like, this is not a small thing. This is the biggest thing. Like, you're involved in the most important thing in history. You realize that, right? You do. I know you do. So holy fuck, right? Talk about having a meaning and a reason for living. You're intimately involved in the playing of this game at the most fundamental level. I've had a lot of those moments when it comes in waves. It's like the immensity of this is like the gravity of a black hole. It's that immense. It's just the gravity of what's been revealed to me is overwhelming if I let it get there. Yeah. Yeah, it literally is. So glad. I'm so glad. I have a lot of gratitude for you guys. Mm, hmm. The second last one that you did, Denissa, I think it's the second last one. The final, yeah, the final, whatever you said. I know you feel it too, Denissa. You feel on a much more intuitive level, you feel the enormity, the importance of what's going on at this moment. Perhaps within this little community. We need to not underestimate the power that when two or more to gather together in God's name, there's something like that in the Bible, right? So we need to recognize and embrace the power that we have as a community being like-minded, like unminded. Because when one is presence, I don't want to just want to say present, but when one is in this state of thought-free awareness, it's the same state for everyone. Like we're basically being unified in the absolute as Mona. We all rest in the silence and there's unity there. There isn't even really separateness when everyone is in the thought-free state. What is there that distinguishes us if we're all focused on that which is the same for all of us? Well, gang, I'm calling it. Another good one. I really enjoy these. They're getting kind of better. I don't know what better means, but they're getting better. I really enjoy our meetings. All right. Hold to the practice. See you next weekend.